Since we're doing a video on using Frit for our project, I figured I'd give a small little intro about Frit and some, safety guidelines that you guys should keep in mind when you choose Frit if you're going to use it for your projects. And pretty much what Frit is little chunks of glass, and they do come in different sizes. This one here is a large Frit, and I do prefer to use larger sizes because you are essentially dealing with chunks of glass here, and they could be varying different size chunks depending on what size Frit you got. This one here is a fine one, and just pop this open so you can see. This is a very fine powder in here, and as you see on the label, one thing you want to do is avoid breathing the glass dust in, because glass dust in your lungs is really no bueno and it's highly dangerous. So keep that in mind if you decide to use Frit, to make sure you choose something that's going to be easily controllable for you and you're not accidentally going to touch it and then touch your eye, or you could really hurt yourself doing that. So I like to stick with the larger Frit, but I do have other sizes as well, and of course they have their advantages and disadvantages. The smaller Frit melts in much quicker than a larger, grittier Frit. So if you want to have nice smooth finish to your glass, then the small Frit is the way to go. They even have finer ones, as I showed you before, but I like this double amber purple one. And this is just like sand. It looks like sand in the container, and it's pretty much like sand we're working with. And this is the one where you got to be careful with breathing it in, or if you accidentally hit the thing and it pops up into the air. So you really need to take proper precautions when you use a really fine Frit powder like this. And here's another example as well. Again, it's very, very fine. And these are all just little chunks of glass. So those are some of your Frit basics. Frit is great though, because you could easily add color to your glass with very little experience, and it could look really, really awesome. Like we're gonna make a piece today, and I'll show you how cool Frit can be. And they come in just so many different colors. So that's another huge benefit of Frit, is this is just a fraction of what I have. So you can get tons of colors and just really expand your color palette by using some Frit in your work. So let's light the torch and get started on the project. Hello everyone, and we are on the torch now and all set to go. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but I do plan on posting more in the upcoming future. Life has been keeping me busy, and unfortunately I cannot make full-time YouTube a priority at this point. So, just do the best I can and upload when I have the time. So, the first thing I'm going to do is peel off some corroded glass off the end. Always make sure you throw those scraps into your water bucket. This way they're not hanging around on your work area. We could accidentally get poked. And the first thing we're doing now is forming a gather of glass. I have a 20mm rod. We're going to be making, a pretty small icicle. It's not going to be too big. And the first step in making the icicle, as with many other glass projects, is making that gather. I just wanted to give a quick little demo on how to hold the glass in your hand. I use the pinky mostly for clamping the glass down and making sure that it's held tight, and the other fingers for spinning and rotating it. And I rotate the glass towards me. You could rotate away. It's really preference on whatever feels comfortable in your hand. Your main goal is to keep your glass in the fire in the same spot, so you could, keep the glass molten and moving. And if you don't get the glass to move, then your project is not going to happen. So right now I'm working what is called the elbows down position. And that just means the glass is pointed down, or my elbow is in the down position, kind of next to my side. And this is great for making gathers. Right now I moved to what's called the neutral position, and that's where the glass is parallel to your working surface. And this is again just to round out that gather and get it nice and smooth and make sure we are fully centered up on the glass. So just make sure you drill that heat in there. The glass should really round out itself. You shouldn't have to do any manipulation with any kind of tools. Just use the fire. And I forgot to get my frit ready, so I'm going to take this glass tube and scoop out a little bit of frit and just throw it right on my graphite. And I usually have a spoon for this, but I couldn't find it anywhere, so sometimes you have to improvise, and the glass tube did the job, and now we're good to go. So I'm going to drill some more heat back into that gather to make sure that glass is nice and molten. It's better to put more heat in your glass than less, because, you know, if you do less heat, you take it out, you try to go for a smush or a move, and the glass is not hot enough, nothing's going to happen. And I find that is where people get frustrated, is they don't put enough heat into the glass to get the glass to that molten state where you can move it easily. So get the glass super hot, don't be bashful, take that ball of fire out, make sure only the hot glass goes into the smashers, and give that a smush. So now that we have the lollipop formed, I'm going to go ahead and again put some more heat in there, because the metal does take some heat away from the glass. And then just dip that right into my frit. Oh, there we go, switch the camera. So you can see that the hot glass has picked up that frit. And you could do this as much as you want, depending on how much coverage you want. And don't be bashful, you could mix and match frit as well and apply it in layers. And there's just really so much you can do with it that it's just such a cool, creative tool, like I was saying in the intro. And again, the options are really limitless. So I just dipped that on there, got it nice and covered. Now I'm going to fully melt that in. If you want to have some texture on your icicle at the end, you could leave that frit a little bit not melted in. So that's really your personal preference. Here's how it's looking so far. I do have some clear in there as well, which I think looks awesome. I love mixing clear and colored glass, and just clear glass on its own when it's clean and like defect free is just so beautiful. So I am a big fan of that. Right now I'm heating up a white rod. I'm gonna run a bead of white around the lollipop, and with white you have to be careful not to boil it. If you boil it, you kind of screwed it up and you just have to pull it off, because there's no way to get those air bubbles out of the glass. So use a nice gentle heat, get that white in there. Make sure you don't go too close to the candles, keeping the working flame, and you should be good to go. And I'm just running that bead around. I start at the top and work my way towards the edge. You can run it edge to edge if you want. This just works out easier for me, and I just have better control of the glass doing it that way. And you also don't need to do this step either. You could leave it without the border and without this additional color. You know, again, it's all your preference. Now we have that white attached to our lollipop, and that's going to make a nice border on the outside when we get that all melted in. Right now I'm using the tweezers to melt hot glass together, since I did have a seam in the tip. And also I do usually make that end my tip, so I'm going to punty up to that. And then I'm going to eventually flame cut off the end. So it doesn't need to look super beautiful over there, you know, just good enough for now. Although you can go ahead and make it look super beautiful. It's really, like I said, it's your art, it's your self-expression, so just go crazy and do whatever makes you happy. Right now I'm gonna punty up, and I need to first clean off the end of the white rod, because it's got that little bend to it. You always want to work with straight punties. Just makes your life way easier. Take the extra couple seconds and go ahead and pull off that extra glass. It is always worth it. I used to never do it, but as I get more experienced, I see how much faster your workflow would be if you just did it. So, personal tip, glass blowing tip for you. If you are learning to do this, then keep that in mind on your journey. Be gentle with yourself as well, and you know, just work with the glass, and it's just such an amazing material to work with. Right now I'm drilling some heat into the very center of that disc where the glass is the thickest. That is where we want to get the most heat. Also, the top and bottom will pick up radiant heat, so we could use that to help shape our taper. I always make my moves out of the flame for more control. So come out, let the glass stiffen up for a little bit, and now I'm just pulling and being very careful to keep my rotation the same for both hands right now. You can pull and twist. I like to pull and then twist to see what how much glass I have to work with. Right now I'm going to put in the first twist, which I ride the flame. I don't put the glass fully in the fire because it's not so thick, so it heats up rather quickly. And just give that twist. Alright, while we're adding those twists, let's do this video's dad joke, which is, if April showers bring May flowers, what do May flowers bring? And the answer is the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims came over on the Mayflower. Not only do you get glass blowing, you get some American history as well. And of course, a kind reminder to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Excuse me. As we know, YouTube shows videos that are clicked on more, so if you guys could also share and recommend, that'd be greatly appreciated. It does take me a bunch of time to make these videos, so just keep that in mind. And I'm happy to do it for you guys, and I love teaching and I love showing people what I know, so I'm always happy to share. Right now, I'm going to start to get that glass ready to make the loop, so I'm putting some extra heat into the end. We're going to need to make it taper off a little bit, and then we need to pull a little stringer of glass so we could go ahead and make the loop to hang this. I forgot, I added one more twisty to the end. I wanted to add one more to make the bottom a little bit tighter and a little bit more twisty. You could feel free to make the twist as tight or as loose as you like them. These are only about quarter turn twists. They're not like too tight. So again, that is your preference to make it as tight or as wide as you want them. Go ahead and drill some heat into that glass. Get that nice and super hot and gently pull your hands apart. I'm doing this out of the flame, even though you can't really tell from the front view. And you can see how the fire is kind of flickering. That's because I'm letting the glass ride the flame and not putting the glass fully into the middle of the torch. This is relatively thin, so it doesn't need a massive amount of heat to get moving. So just go ahead, heat, give a gentle pull, and try to get it as even as you can, and of course as on center as you can. This way everything looks nice and straight when you're done. I wanted to reheat that and give it a little bit more twist on the end. This way it blends nicely. That twist came out a little bit wonky, but that's not a big deal. Still looks really cool. We're gonna flame cut the end off, which make sure you do your flame cuts with the flame. This way the fire cuts the glass for you. Just heat up a little bit of glass, gently pull your hands apart, and avoid pulling any stringers. So now we have that little tail of glass. And we're gonna go ahead and use our handy tweezers to bend this into a loop. So I just dip it in and out of the flame to pick up a little bit of heat. It's better, again, like I said, to work in small movements rather than one large movement, and just have the tweezers at the ready right next to the flame. And you can see how that looks, just getting that little hook in there. Now we're gonna tack weld it to the back and continue to heat until it fully fuses together. If you choose to make a hoop this way, make sure when you heat it up, like I'm doing now, I heat up the whole loop so it condenses, and then I use the reamer to make it nice and even. Make sure you don't let that hole close up, or else you'll have to re-pull it and start it over. So keep the reamer, or what's that other tool? A tungsten pick, yes, that's it. A tungsten pick at the ready, just in case your hole closes down. You could just go ahead and pop it back open with no problem. I shoot the reamer in, I go in both sides to make sure the glass is nice and even on both sides. And continue to reheat, condense the glass, put the reamer back in to round it out. Use gravity, and if the glass gets too wobbly, to come out of the flame. Borosilicate has a very short working time out of the fire, so if you are losing control of the glass, come out and just gather yourself and let the glass harden up for a little bit before you go back in. A lot of times, if you take the time to take it out of the flame and just let it harden up a little bit, it's easier to recover than to keep the glass in the fire, let it get too hot and too soft, and then you lose control of it. All right, so last step now, we're gonna go ahead and cut off the white punty that is holding our piece. So this was a hot seal. I fully fused it onto the icicle, so now I'm just gonna have to use a torch to cut that off. And here's where you could play with the, excuse me, the end of your icicle if you want it to be pointy, or you want to like bend it so it like swoops up or something. You know, that's all, you know, your personal preference, and you can feel free to do that at this step. I'm just, you know, plain cutting off so I get a nice little tip on the bottom. You don't want it too pointy in case it, you know, falls down. It'll shatter all over the place. So I like to leave it a little bit thick so it's a little bit more durable. And you can see that Frit looks awesome on there, mixes with the clear, and it also has different colors. And with that white, looks super awesome. And here is another icicle I made, also with Frit, and this one I used a black border on it. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.